Hi, my name is Rachel Thompson. I'm a longtime member of the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group. I'm here on behalf of the Easton Book Fair to share a short craft talk with you regarding beta readers. You can find Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group at glvwg.org. And you can find more about my books at rctom.com or .net. That's rcthom.com. I'm a published author of science fiction, social satire, historical fiction, and nonfiction freelance journalism. And today I'm going to answer a few questions and make a few suggestions about beta readers. First off, what is a beta reader? A beta reader essentially is a person that will be the first reader or an early reader of an author's work and process. And by and large, beta readers aren't necessarily people who are writers or journalists. They are people who love to read and people who love books. Beta readers are an inescapable, important part of the writing process for any author, or at least they should be. Some authors do not use a beta reader. Other authors have their favorites. And some of us are still searching for people to work with us. So as an example of a beta reader, I would say anybody you know in your life that just loves books, and they may not even understand or know what you're writing, but a good reader will enjoy your work no matter what the genre is, and or give you important information about what's wrong or what's right with your work. One of the things I like to do as an author is I like to avoid professional readers at first. The reason for this is that professionals in literature and writing, editors, we all have a different perspective of how we see and feel stories. We go deeper, we look harder, we see things the average reader won't see. The reason we want a beta reader is to get the raw response of an average reader or of a person who isn't necessarily in tune with the craft of writing itself. Why this is important is because readers know what they like, readers know what works, and they know what doesn't work, whether it's instinctively or they have some skills as a writer themselves. It's really important for us writers to know and understand where our books are at. We are too close to it. We, as we write, and editors, as they pick through, become so ingrained in the work and the details of the work that we can often miss the big picture or the overall feeling of the book. A beta reader can tell you what the book feels like, what works. The beta reader might say something that's completely unrelated to craft, but you should listen. You as the author need to listen, because the whole point of having people test read your book is to see if it captures the reader or not. If it doesn't capture the reader, if the reader doesn't want to keep reading, we have a problem. So allow me to look at my notes here for a second. And choosing readers. Let's talk about that for a second. I've already mentioned a love of books is foremost. But a reader should also be a person who you trust. A reader should be a person who will not lie, who will tell you the honest truth of what they think, whether it's good or bad. It's really important that a bond, or at least a trust between the reader and the author, developed a relationship in some way. And so the kind of readers you don't want necessarily are typically family members, because family members have a tendency either to tear you down when it's not deserved, or they have a tendency to give you high praises, also undeserved. What us writers need to know in our manuscripts from our first readers is what is working, what is not working. And I've seen many times in critique groups and other places where blowing sunshine up the skirt seems to be pretty common. Um, in order for us to progress as writers, it's not going to help us. We really do need to know what's wrong with the book. So, choose a reader that you trust, choose a reader that reads, and choose a reader that's going to tell you the truth. You don't want a hostile reader. You don't want to force a person to read your book. You do not want somebody to feel obligated, because a hostile reader is not going to be truthful and maybe pick on the things that are bad and not tell you anything that's good. That's not going to help you, the writer, and it wastes the time of the person who's reading for you. So, you know, um, avoid trying to force it upon persons. And as far as what this reader of yours likes to read, it almost doesn't matter. In fact, if their genre is one and yours is different, that's a good test, because that tells the writer what is going to work. If you're a person that reads women's fiction and you get to look at somebody's first draft of or first polished draft, I should say, of a science fiction tale, that woman's fiction reader is going to respond. And how she responds or how he responds is very telling for the author. Because frankly, all books have to work, all stories have to work in a certain way in order to be stories. And even though a reader may not have the technical language to describe what they don't like, they can easily figure out that they don't like it. And as such, the kind of questions you should ask is to, in the post-reading period, there are specific questions you can ask of the reader. But in the pre-reading period, while your reader is reading, don't bother them. Leave her alone, leave him alone. Don't keep bugging them. Don't make suggestions. Don't ask questions yet. You want to know what their impressions are. And their impressions are their own. You don't want to do like, suggest to them what they want or what they will find. However, that said, an author can and actually should ask specific questions in advance. That is to say, one should set a guideline or a criteria. An author may ask for specific questions to be mindful of as you read. A question like, does this character seem real? Or does this character seem too stiff? Or is my plot working? Questions like that. You can actually have some discussion beforehand, but you do not want to burden the reader with too many questions, too many things to look out for. Let the reader read. Let the reader understand and decide for themselves what they like and what they don't like. But once that's done, once you've gone through that process and the reader and you, the author, get together, it's time to ask specific questions. Mostly what the writer wants to ask are the negative questions. Because we writers, we all have blind spots. We all have writing habits that are invisible to us. So fresh eyes can see the forest for the trees. Fresh eyes can see the things that we ourselves as authors cannot or do not see. What kind of interview questions depends on the writer's need, but here are a few examples that you might want to think about. You may ask them general questions such as, so how was it? First, of course, but that won't produce the most helpful answers. I like to start with specific big picture questions to ask the reader their impressions, overall impressions, and then get closer to the problems. You might ask, was it unrealistic, the plot or the characters? Were the characters unbearable or were they believable? Was the plot confusing? Did things line up right? Were the characters dull or flat or too over the top? Did the dialogue sound right? Did it work? Were there any problems following the story for the reader? Is there anything that confused you? Most important, what stopped you from reading when you put the book down? When did you give up? When did the reader not want to read? The most important question in my mind an author can ask a reader is, what stopped you, the reader, from reading? What took you out of the fictive dream, as James Fry calls it? When we read, we all get lost in it. And that's the whole point. That's the idea. That's what James Fry calls the fictive dream. If the reader does not fall into the dream, does not lose track of time, wants to put the book down, that's a problem. And we authors need to know where that is, when that is, and if you can, why that is. You may not know why, but when you're reading, you'll know when you want to stop reading. So it's important for the author and the readers to have a little discussion about expectations or not expectations. And as I've said, I wouldn't put too many rules or objectives on the reader. The reader is there to provide for you the big picture, the impressions, and where the problems may lie. You know, and what they say and what they read, it ain't all bad. The reader should also share what they like. And there's a lot of things they can like. These are things we authors need to know. Because if the readers respond to something, if they like something, if something moves them, that's something we can use to improve our work. You know, there are questions that you can ask, such as, what did you like the best? What made you want to read on? Did you feel the tension? The character kept you interested? Great. So what did you like about her? Is there anything you can think of that would make the story better? Now, in conclusion, I'd like to say that whatever your reader provides is legitimate because it comes from the reader's perspective and the reader's mind and the reader's own experiences. Us as writers should not be hard on our readers. We should listen and consider. And although we may have an emotional response, or we may feel upset, or we may be angry, don't say that to your reader. Don't do anything to your reader. Thank your reader. And take a little time. Think about what she said or he said. Because what they said and what they point out could very well be the blind spot you as a writer are struggling with. So on that point, I want to encourage all writers to engage with a beta reader. And I also want to implore all writers to take beta readers seriously. And as far as readers are concerned, if you're a person that loves books, if you want to enjoy the benefits of having helped somebody, of seeing your name in the acknowledgement section of the book, and just the good feelings that comes with helping somebody along, helping somebody to make a better story, I would encourage you also to work with the writers you know and volunteer with the writers you know. Even if it's not your genre, good writing is good writing, and so is bad writing. And we need to know what works and what doesn't. And in that regard, beta readers have it all. I mean, they can tell us what they feel. We don't necessarily need to know exactly what spawns it, but if the reader has a problem, we writers have a problem. So I thank you for your attention, and I hope you writers will seek readers, and I hope you readers will seek writers. It's a relationship you will both benefit greatly from. And I thank you for your attention. And please do visit the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group, check out our website, and or visit the Easton Book Festival and any bookshop you happen across. We'd love to see you there. Thanks very much. Have a good day.